NASA's Perseverance pierced the Martian atmosphere at 12,000 miles per hour. And so began the 7 minutes of terror when contact was lost. Until
Perseverance has now slowed to subsonic speeds and the heat shield has been separated. We have started our constant velocity accordion, which means we are conducting the about to conduct the sky crane maneuver. Sky crane maneuver has started, about 20 meters off the surface. Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the sands of past life.
the first 2 images to be sent were taken by low-resolution hazard cameras. It took nearly 7 months, covering 293 million miles, before a complex series of manoeuvres brought the Perseverance rover, the biggest, most advanced and ambitious of nearly 20 US missions to Mars, safely to the surface.
You know, this mission is amazing on its own. Science, technology, and caching samples to bring back to Earth. But it's also part of our bigger exploration plans, right? Which involve really understanding Mars and the evolution of Mars and whether there was life, ancient life, but also preparing for eventual human missions to Mars.
And so the Perseverance rover's 2-year mission on Mars begins. But this time, America is not the only country taking a closer look, with the United Arab Emirates and China taking a giant leap for their space programs.
I think the U.S. space program, those of us who are in it are welcoming some healthy competition. Different space programs are going to try different approaches. Having a different player out there with a different group and just trying different things is very important for progress.
But why 3 missions all at once? Well, it's all to do with orbits. Mars and Earth only come close enough every 2 to 3 years to allow for travel times as short as 6 to 9 months. The last time 3 missions were launched was mid-2003. The US Spirit and Opportunity rovers landed in January 2004, but the UK's Beagle 2 fell silent after entering the atmosphere. Perseverance is the 5th rover NASA has sent to Mars. This time the target is the Jezero crater, a rocky location that needs a precise landing system to avoid crashing.
It's going to be landing in a much smaller circle, in a safe location, but close to a place which is very interesting because it's a former riverbed, place where we've seen flowing water billions of years ago leave basically a delta of rocks and interesting geology, but also possibly signs of life in the past.
Professor Mark McCaughrean is the Senior Science Advisor at the European Space Agency. How will NASA's mission with Perseverance rover, how will it differ from previous missions?
The Perseverance rover is effectively a copy in terms of the technology of the mission used for, which is called Curiosity, which is currently roving around in a place called Gale Crater. That landed in 2012, and the Perseverance rover is a copy of the chassis and the wheels and the sort of the overall system and the landing system, which is very clever and complicated. But it's got different scientific instruments on board, complementary to the ones at Gale Crater.
For a start, it has 2 microphones, so we can hear the sounds of Mars for the first time. And there's also an experiment on board called MOXIE.
MOXIE stands for the Mars Oxygen ISRU experiment. And so what we're doing is we're demonstrating technologies that would be used to generate oxygen on the surface of Mars.
The electrolysis system operates at 800 degrees Celsius, which reacts to the CO2 with a catalyst and generates oxygen, which separates it out from the CO2 gas. It's all very exciting stuff for engineers like Professor Christopher Welch.
Can we extract oxygen from the carbon dioxide that makes up Mars' atmosphere? And that's what the MOXIE experiment on board the rover is going to do. It's going to try and extract, create oxygen of a certain level of purity as a sort of proof that it can be done. So that maybe in the future we could make oxygen which could be used either for future humans on Mars, or it could be used as an oxidizer for rocket propulsion.
It is in fact actually gold. Gold is a very efficient reflector of infrared heat, and because we have this very hot electrolysis system inside, we wanted to make sure that we didn't radiate heat onto any of the other things around us within the rover.
Another first is Ingenuity, which will attempt the first ever powered flight on another planet. It must cope with temperatures of minus 90 degrees Celsius and is powered by innovative solar cells and batteries. To achieve flight in the thin atmosphere, Ingenuity weighs only 1.8 kilograms and has carbon fibre blades arranged into 2 rotors that spin in opposite directions at around 2,400 RPM, many times faster than a helicopter on Earth.
You can't fly it in real time because of the communication lag between the Earth and Mars, so it has to be autonomous. And it's going to be used effectively to kind of reconnoitre future routes for the rover. So the plan is a couple of times a day, this little helicopter will take off and autonomously fly a route, look what's coming up for the rover. The flights won't last very long, maybe 3-4 minutes. Then it will come back and recharge, and then they will analyse the footage and decide where to send the rover.
Watching from above and taking pictures like these will be the Hope Orbiter, the United Arab Emirates' first interplanetary mission that will start to build the most complete picture of the Martian atmosphere that we've ever had.
It's an instance of the UAE's attempt to change itself from a country which is very dependent on oil revenue into a knowledge-based economy. And in order to do this, they need to persuade many more of their citizens to get involved in scientific and technical subjects.
Hope has joined other Mars orbiters from America, Europe and India.
So what they've decided to do with the Hope mission is actually stand a little bit further back from Mars and try to get a more synoptic view of the weather. So if you like, a meteorological satellite for the world looking at Mars. And that's fascinating because there's lots of things we still don't understand about the way the Martian atmosphere works. For example, how the big dust storms come up every couple of years and cover the whole planet and then go away again. So I think they're going to do some very interesting complementary science from the high orbit that they're going into. They've specifically chosen it to complement what everybody else is doing.
So we'll be getting understandings of the lower atmosphere and the upper atmosphere, and that requires spectra from infrared spectrometer that we have on board. We also have visible images of Mars, and at the same time we also measure the hydrogen and oxygen halo of Mars using ultraviolet. So it's a mix of data and also images that scientists use in conjunction to get their scientific discoveries and observations.
Hope was the first of the missions to arrive in Mars orbit on the 9th of February. And a day later, it was the turn of China's Tianwen-1, or Questions to Heaven. The independent mission is a daring one, consisting of an orbiter, lander and rover. The China mission is very ambitious. Is this quite symbolic of their space program?
We're all China watchers when it comes to space. They're doing very impressive things. So we shouldn't really be amazed and surprised, but the progress has been astonishing. The things that they've done, putting their own astronauts into space, building space stations, doing things which have been done before, of course, with robots, but also doing things that haven't been done before, like the Chang'e 4 mission, which landed on the far side of the moon for the first time. Nobody's done that before.
Despite the tense political relationship between China and America, it's nothing like the Cold War standoff with the US and Russia.
Let me just show you something, because I was about to reach back for it.
Yes, please. But as Dr. Robert Zubrin points out, they still celebrated each other's achievements in space.
This is Time magazine from April 21st, 1961. And that is Yuri Gagarin. This is the picture, not of a villain, but of a hero, right?
Science has always been bigger than national rivalries, and Dr. Zubrin sees China's ambitious program as beneficial for all humankind.
China could definitely shake things up, and I believe, frankly, in a positive way, because, the worst thing the Soviets ever did to the American space program was quit. So long as they were in the game, we were moving.
Budget constraints were one of the reasons China decided to push the limits of their first ever mission to Mars, according to Xu Yansong. For more than 30 years, he worked for China's National Space Administration.
They say Mars mission has never been a successful mission for the first trier. So we're looking forward to see if this one is a go or not. And the next step for the Mars mission is a more ambitious Mars sample return mission. So this is also robotic-based missions, but we're looking forward to collect more parameters and more data from this mission, and where the future mission can be based on.
The Tianwen-1 orbiter will spend time surveying the landing site at Utopia Planitia, where a NASA Viking mission landed in the 1970s. It's relatively flat and free of big boulders.
We will take, let's say, 3 or 4 months to adjust, to communicate, to rendezvous, and to maneuver the spacecraft into the appropriate orbit, and also imaging the Mars surface, and to maximize the best potential landing site.
If all goes to plan, China will become the third country after the United States and Russia to achieve a soft landing, and the second to deploy a rover. While Tianwen-1 will repeat things that have been done before, this mission's technology and techniques are new. The solar-powered rover will explore the surface for 92 Martian days, each of which is equivalent to a day and 37 minutes on Earth. The 6 onboard instruments will seek signs of life, including any subsurface water and ice.
It's going to have a ground-penetrating radar to look down the surface, under the surface. It's going to measure the magnetic field and the weather. It's going to, measure chemical compounds, and of course, it's going to take lots and lots of interesting photos.
But unlike SpaceX's Elon Musk and others, China does not want to send astronauts to Mars.
And one of my favorite movies is Martian. And I know that lots of countries and a lot of people are looking forward to go to Mars. But there are lots of challenges. I think Moon would be the first step for our manned mission. But before that, we have to construct the Chinese space station to validate many things. And then in 10 years, landing on the Moon, which is based on the heavy lifting launch vehicle. And then for Mars and other planetary, we will have robotic missions. Chinese missions, basically for exploration project, would have two folds. One is engineering purpose, another is scientific purpose. Unlike European countries, they base their project on scientific missions, but the Chinese would have more technical challenges to archive some of the technologies and save the technologies for future use.
The European Space Agency, or ESA, is not collaborating with China on this mission, although it is interested in any scientific discoveries. But it is working with NASA to bring back samples collected by Perseverance.
It's designed to drill into the surface and pick up samples, put them in small tubes, which will be sealed and left on the surface. And the point of that is that we, the European Space Agency, are working with NASA on a program called Mars Sample Return, where we'll actually fly back to the same location. A NASA spacecraft will take us down to the surface. An ESA rover will then run around on the surface and go to the locations where those samples have been left by Perseverance, bring them back to the landing platform, put them on a rocket, fire that into orbit, where a European spacecraft will pick the samples up and bring them back to Earth for much more comprehensive scientific analysis than anything we could do in situ on Mars. So Perseverance is the first step of a much more ambitious program, Mars Sample Return. So that's really exciting for all of us.
But that won't be until the end of the decade, which means the European Space Agency has a chance to find signs of life on Mars before NASA. Their ExoMars mission was also supposed to be landing on Mars around this time, but had to be postponed. So if it launches next year, it's hoped the Rosalind Franklin rover will land in 2023 and put her long drill to work and also analyse some samples on board. Is there a chance that NASA could find out whether there is life on Mars before you can get your rover there? I mean, are they able to analyse anything at all inside the Perseverance rover?
NASA Perseverance rover has some capability in that regard, but it doesn't have that complicated biology lab, and it won't be drilling 2 meters underground. So if they, for example, were to stumble on fossils of trilobites or dinosaurs, sure, they would get there first. But we believe that any life on Mars is going to be much more primitive than that historically billions of years ago or still there today.
The International Space Exploration family continues to grow, and with more people come more ideas to add more pieces to our solar system puzzle.
It's always the case that there's a better idea out there, but someone's got to be willing to try it.